That while I agree with you that there are some issues to be tackled within certain views of Islam, there are some people who take things too far, that don't understand how it's supposed to treat Christians in the Sharia understanding.
Yeah, I'm listening.
That, but I don't think that's the same thing as saying we should not be standing behind these people. I think we can admit that Hamas needs change, but I don't think that means we shouldn't be wholeheartedly putting our hands behind resistance to Palestine.
Right. So do you want me to reply to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, I think that you're naive. Let me finish. I think that you're naive in your understanding of what Islam requires in its treatment of Christians. If you look at the commentary, and we're about to do it after I've given you a right of reply, if you look at the commentary of Surah 9:29, given by classical Muslim scholars.
I'm a Shia.
Well, okay, fine. I mean, that does change things. It does change things. Fair enough. I didn't realize you were a Shia. But if you look at Sharia law as practiced by the Iranian state, Christians don't have equal rights with Muslims.
What is the distinction?
I'll give you an example. So in Iran, if a Christian man and a Christian woman are in relationship, and I know 3 Christians personally that are all in relationships with Muslim women, under Iranian law, that marriage is illegal.
Yeah.
Right. But if a Muslim man is in a relationship with a Christian woman, that marriage can be legal. Let me finish. So here's my example. I'm landing now. So in that example, what we see is that Christians do not have equal rights with Muslims under Islamic law. Do you agree with the law or do you condemn the law?
No, I agree with that. I'll tell you why. No, hold on, because we can look to the UK. Can I in the UK have my 4 wives? Can I have 4 wives under the UK, legal UK 4 wives? No, I can't have my full Islamic right to wives under the legal system. I can have the nikah. I can't have the 4 legal wives under the system. I can't also just slaughter a goat for Eid by myself. I can't do these certain things too. There are certain things within any law of the land you're not going to be able to do. I don't think Christian women not being able to date Muslim men or things. I don't think that's like a real. I mean, that's Islam. That's the teachings. That's like saying with anything within the religion.
Okay, so let me reply to your point. It's very well made.
Yeah.
But what you've missed is that under a law like that, a Christian cannot have 4 wives either.
Yeah.
No one can have 4 wives. In other words, what I'm saying to you is that Christians, according to the Old Testament, and we inherit that philosophy, believe in a principle of equality under the law. In other words, I believe that there should be one law for everyone. But let me finish. I didn't interrupt you.
Sorry.
But under Sharia law, there's one set of laws for Christians and another set of laws for Muslims.
Yeah.
And these laws treat them differently. Let me give you another example.
Right.
In Iran,
Yeah.
if a Christian wants to become a Muslim, that's legal.
Yeah.
But if a Muslim wants to become a Christian, that is illegal.
Yeah,
there are hangings of Christians that are happening in Iran.
Yeah.
And therefore, once again, we see that Christians are not under equal treatment under the law. So your argument is not valid, because I am just saying to you that Christianity is better, because in Christianity, you would be governed by the same law that governs me and they'd be identical. But if you had your way, I would be treated by a separate set of laws than how you would be treated, that would place me at a disadvantage.
See, that just brings to the question of, is this idea that we should all have such a liberal world government really the thing that we need? Because as you can see, the Western philosophical tradition, I'm sure you're familiar, they start privileging epistemology over metaphysics. They go away. We get atheism, we get this existentialism. And what has this done for the majority? Me and you both believe there's certain conditions to go to a place called heaven, right?
Yeah.
Now, has this wave of atheism, this wave of liberalism, this freedom, has it opened the doors for more salvation, or are more people than ever rejecting a religion and going to hell?
Right. So your first mistake is thinking that I'm a liberal. I'm not a liberal. My politics aren't liberal.
All right, go on, give me
So I don't believe in the Enlightenment settlement.
Okay.
I don't believe that Christians should get in bed with liberalism.
Okay.
Right? Because liberalism is allowing people who support what I would call toxic values and toxic beliefs, like the reintroduction of slavery, like the idea of child marriage, like the idea of discrimination on the basis of religion and creating two kinds of laws, like wiping out anyone who's not a Jew, a Christian, or a Muslim. Those kinds of toxic values are tolerated by liberalism.
Yeah.
I would not tolerate them.
Okay.
I would deal with them, right? And the reason why I would deal with them is whether a Christian advocates for them, or a Jew advocates for them, or a Muslim advocates for them, they just are abhorrent values. So don't mistake me for a liberal.
Okay.
Now, but you haven't, all you've actually done is agree that we should discriminate against Christians in the Middle East.
I won't call it discrimination. I feel like there's a...
If like, I know Muslims who become Christians, personally, right? Right? Should they be killed under an Islamic state?
Yes.
Right. Does the Quran say that there's no compulsion in religion?
Yes.
If you stick a gun to someone's head and say, you're going to stay a Muslim, is that compelling them?
You're not supposed to do that.
No. I'm using the metaphor.
No,
but
yeah,
if you...
there is a difference of opinion though. So there is a type of murtad in which his repentance cannot be accepted, and there's a type who can. The type who was born a Muslim, his repentance can be accepted. The type who converted and then left it is a type of repentance.
Right, but think logic. What's your name, bro? Luke. Think logically. If I let you walk into a room and then say you can't leave, and if you try to leave, I'll shoot you. But you want to leave, right? Couple of questions. One, in your heart, have you already decided to leave?
Yeah.
In your heart, in some sense of imagination, have you already left?
I suppose you could say it.
Yeah. And if I say, if you leave this room, I'll shoot you, am I compelling you to stay?
I think so, but I think there's a...
Now, go back to what's Allah's words on this.
You see, this is the thing though. When you're talking about morality, we're going to both be presupposing that our religious beliefs from our God is what's going to define what's moral. So you can say you find it unlikable. We can't say we find it immoral, because my morals are going to be based on the Quran. They're going to come from God.
Right, but what I'm pointing out to you, right, is that, and when you come to accept the apostasy laws, is that based on Sahih al-Bukhari?
Well, no, I'm Shia.
Well, Shia do accept some of Sahih al-Bukhari.
Only stuff that's between both.
Fair enough. So when Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim talk about the apostasy laws, you're not getting your view of apostasy laws from those hadiths. So Muslims have no agreement about where this idea is coming from.
I'm sure we have some stuff on it, but it's just nothing. I haven't read the particular...
Okay, I just want to point out to you that Muslims can't agree about their hadiths.
Oh, we know that, yeah.
Right. So now, coming back to the Quran. The Quran says, let there be no compulsion in religion. Is that true?
Yes.
Right. But you've already admitted that the apostasy law is a form of compulsion.
Kind of.
Can you see the contradiction?
Kind of, but what I'm going to say
Where's my analogy of the room flawed?
No, I don't think it's flawed. I think you're correct in saying if people want to leave, they're going to want to leave, regardless of whether you hold them there or not.
But in apostasy laws, you will be holding lots of people there.
You've got to, with apostasy laws, to be executed for apostasy, you'd have to admit it openly to 4 people first.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just be like sitting in your house being non-religious and they're gonna kick down the door. That's not gonna happen. I can understand what you're saying, but also within any society, there are certain things that, hey, if they're against the law and no one sees you, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, doing drugs is illegal. But as long as we do it behind closed doors, even in them parliament buildings, as long as no one sees them, it's okay.
That's not okay.
I mean, it's what they do though, right? I mean, okay, not in the moral sense, I just mean in the societal sense.
Right.
We get away with it. In the same regard, while I understand that there are harsh punishments, I also believe there is wiggle room. I believe there is a nice amount of wiggle room.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
So going on what you're saying, you would be happier if Muslims pretended to be Muslim in the mosque, pretended to be Muslim at Ramadan, without actually being Muslim.
No, they don't have to do any of that.
Right. But you're happier if people just pretend to be Muslim rather than be actually Muslim.
No, what I'm saying is if they want to leave, but you know they want to be respectful and be chill and not say anything crazy, and they just mind their business and have a general cultural garb, I think that's fine.
Right. So just think what you've committed yourself to because of Islamic teaching. you've committed yourself to hypocrisy. What's hypocrisy? Do you know?
Yeah.
What is hypocrisy?
Saying one thing and doing the other.
Exactly. So Islam has led you to the point where hypocrisy is preferable than sincerity.
Maybe.
Because, yes, exactly, not maybe, really. Because you're defending hypocrisy. I'm moving because the sun getting right in my head. So I'm using your head as a shadow. So my point to you is, Christianity has a better way for you. Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. In other words, you say what you speak, you speak what you think, and you think what you say, right? And that you act in a way that accords to what you believe. James, in his epistle, states that, his epistle states, it's not what you say you believe, it's what you do that says what you believe.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you say that you're a Christian, but you don't do any Christian things...
I'll show you my faith in my work.
Yeah, exactly. So my point to you is, which do you think is better as a system? That which encourages sincerity, or that which cultivates hypocrisy?
I don't think it cultivates hypocrisy. I wouldn't say that. What I would say is there is going to be people who don't fit under the system that are going to slip through the cracks, unfortunately. I will admit that. But I think that's true of any country that has a certain popular cultural thing or a religion. I think that's true. When people fall outside the cracks, they get exiled. Yeah, I think that's a relatively true thing. I think that can happen even in Christian nations. I think that can happen in Jewish nations. I think this idea that it's just the Muslims who ostracize those who step out the faith, I think that's going to be false, undoubtedly. I'll admit, in this lovely Western country, yeah, maybe we're a lot more peaceful about it. But I think if a lot of people had it their way, no one would believe in their religion that they think is true. So I think the main thing I'm going to really say to that is, I understand your point about you saying, but I'm just really saying, if people mind their business and they don't do outward haram, even upon leaving Islam, if they don't walk around saying, oh yeah, Allah's not real, or I don't believe in Muhammad anymore, which they don't need to do.
Did you learn to disrespect women?
Oh no, it's because she was shouting.
You're chatting now, Muhammad in Muhammad that's how you treat
Yeah,
a woman.
I lost my temper a little bit.
You lost your temper, that's what you learned. I lost my temper as well. I wouldn't
By the way,
break your
that's her husband.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I said sorry. And I am sorry.
That's not how you speak with a woman.
She
said nothing.
Before you jump in,
to
this brother insulted his wife.
I am sorry.
From next
This
time,
brother
any
insulted
woman
his
you
wife.
speak
Before you jump in, this man insulted his wife in front of him. So before you jump in, I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know.
I just lost my temper. I'm autistic, and there's lots of
Next time,
shouting.
give your respect to women.
I will.
Yeah?
I promise. I promise.
You didn't answer to my question. For me, you are extremist Christian. You don't represent Christian. For all, majority of Christian for you is in heresy, and you believe that Israel should stay in Palestine, build the temple, for sure.
So-
destroyed Masjid Al-Aqsa. This is apocalyptic vision.
The apocalypse. So
Yeah,
we
you
were just
there
having
is
a
two
conversation.
No,
hold on one second.
There is
Sir,
two
sir,
things.
sir.
You represent yourself.
I'm happy
as-
to talk to you.
Yeah.
Let me finish talking to him, and then me and you can have a conversation. Okay? Let me talk to him, and then I'll talk to you. Peace with you, brother. Go on. So, my point to you is, Luke, right? Look where Islam has got you, right? Islam has got you to the point where you're defending hypocrisy, where you're defending apartheid, treating people by different sets of laws based on some characteristic. In the West, we know it by racial apartheid, but Islam is religious apartheid. Now, let me ask you this question. If the British government passed a law that said that if you do dawah,
Yeah.
we're going to arrest you. If you convert to Islam, we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
How would you describe those laws?
I'll be honest, a little bit oppressive.
Right. And would you object to those laws?
Yeah, but only once again, because this is where the question, we really need to discuss philosophy more than anything, because all it's going to come down to the question is, whose God exists and who's got the moral high ground, essentially.
But the thing is, our conscience allows us to learn truth, right?
Yeah.
So if we meet something that our conscience kicks against, whilst our conscience can't decide the matter solely on its own,
Yeah.
we should factor in what our conscience is saying. Because
I agree.
God created our conscience. Me and you could argue about which book is true,
Yeah,
but we can't argue about the fact that God created our conscience.
that's true.
And our instinct is to believe that people should treat us justly. which means that God has put into our conscience the idea that we should treat others justly.
I agree.
Because of the law of reciprocation.
I agree.
Like when you apologize to that woman,
Yeah.
I apologize to you. Do you see my point? So my point is to you, bro, is that when you say to me that I don't want someone to pass those laws against against Muslims, you should recognize that your conscience is telling you that you shouldn't want those laws to be passed against Christians. And if some other force, some other authority or influence is making you go against your conscience, then you should recognize that that isn't from God. So it's a question of epistemology. You wanted a philosophical conversation, you've got one.
No, I'm glad. I mean, look, this is the thing. Our moral intuitions can say a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make them all true. Our seemings are not always true. So what I could see, it could seem to me that X, Y, Z feels immoral. It might not necessarily be so, vice versa. Like, for example, is it immoral to kill an ant?
Depends on the context.
Just in general, if I see an ant, is it wrong if I just squish it?
Yes, but it's not a terrible wrong.
It's not terrible wrong. It don't really matter about anything, but you still feel like it's really wrong. You feel bad, like killing a spider. You feel really bad about it, but it's not a real...
It's a wrong,
evil.
but it's not a terrible
It's
wrong.
not a terrible evil, right? So our intuitions aren't going to always justify...
But my point to you is that if you recognize that if anyone passed these laws against Muslims, that would be unjust, then your conscience has allowed you to see what justice looks like. And justice is from God.
Yeah.
Right. So and God has given you a conscience so that you can find justice.
Yeah.
Right. So if your conscience tells you that if someone does this to the Muslims, it's wrong, then you have identified what justice looks like. And therefore...
I agree, you got me there.
Yes,
You got me there.
there you go,
got me
you
there.
see.
I'm not dishonest.
Right? Yeah. So therefore, if you've identified what justice looks like, you should pursue that. And if pursuing that leads you away from this book and to another book, then you should follow that path. Right? And Islam contradicts that concept of justice. The Bible, remember when we were having this conversation, I said the same law for everybody from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? So that means for me that refugees who just arrive here off the boat should be entitled to all the same rights as a citizen.
Okay, I agree with that.
From the beginning.
I agree, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they're also subject to all the same expectations.
Okay, I can agree.
From the beginning.
I can agree.
Right. That means that I can only have one wife. You can only have one wife. Remember, justice points towards a Christian faith because Islam teaches against justice, which your conscience has allowed you to identify. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my point to you, Luke, is that you have, no offense, I don't know the circumstances of your conversion to Islam, right? I don't know. Okay, but my point is you took a philosophical misstep.
Okay.
That's understandable, everyone does, right? But now that you've seen that you took a philosophical misstep, you owe it to yourself to correct. Because standing on the truth is more important than being a Muslim, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I've identified for you a very good, solid reason to take a step back from Islam. And I've also, in that same argument, given you a very concrete step to step towards Christianity. Yeah, do you see it?
I do see it, yeah.
Are you ready to follow that through to its logical conclusion now, or do you want time to think about it?
What time to think about it? Because it still comes down to the question of if Islam is true, then all the moral propositions are true, regardless of how I feel about it.
Right.
And vice versa for Christianity.
Yeah. And we gave you a reason to think that out.
Yeah.
So your conscience is from God. The two books are in dispute.
Yeah.
I say the Quran is false, you say the Bible is false. But what we both agree upon is that our conscience is from God. Right? And our conscience is God's tool to help us delineate justice from injustice.
Yeah.
So when we encounter an injustice against ourselves, we encounter an injustice against anyone.
See, look, if it were up to me, if it was my ijtihad, okay? If it was my ijtihad,
Yeah.
there's one important ayat in the Quran, which I think people ignore a lot.
Let's go to it.
Me, I'm a bit of a Gnostic guy. I like to look at the inner things, less so the
Yeah.
Sharia is...
Where am I going?
I think... Oh, I don't remember the ayat.
All right, just tell it then.
But It's where it says that between the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims, we should race to do good deeds.
Yeah.
Afterwards, Allah will let us know of our difference.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
So for me, if I were to make ijtihad, if it was up to me on the Sharia, I would take that into heavy account. That's what I would say. Because I think it's complicated.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as simple as the outer law.
But think about the logic of that argument, right? Shall we go to the verse? Yeah? It might take us a moment to find it.
I think it's in Surah An-Nisa.
Surah 5, innit?
Surah Ma'idah, yeah.
5. Let's go there. Surah 5, I think, is it 47 to 48? Right, because the thing is, if you're really gonna take this passage seriously, there's nothing stopping you from becoming a Christian.
Why?
I'm gonna show you.
Why?
Right? Okay, right, listen to it. Listen, we'll read the whole passage, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to give you a Quranic reason why you can become a Christian.
Why?
Okay. So the passage goes this. To thee we sent the scripture in truth, confirming the scripture that came before it. So that's to Muhammad, we sent the Quran, confirming the Torah and the Injil, yeah?
Yep.
Right? Before it, and guarding it in safety. So judge between them by what Allah has revealed. So in other words, make your judgments amongst the Jews, because this is when he was in Medina, based upon the Quran. Or the Torah, right? And it goes on. And follow not their vain desires. So, like, you got to stick to the scriptures, not what you want.
Yeah.
Diverging from the truth that have come to thee, the truth that has come to thee. Listen to the next bit. To each among you, that's the Jews and the Muslims at this point.
Yeah.
This is in Medina. To each amongst you have we prescribed a law, an open way. If Allah had so willed,
He would have made you one.
Yeah, let's go. Keep going. If Allah had so willed, He would have made you one, a single people, one ummah.
Yeah.
Right? But His plan is to test you in what He hath given you. So strive as a race in all virtues.
Yeah.
The goal of you all is to Allah. That's all, Jews, Christians, Muslims.
Yeah.
It is He that will show you the truth of the matters in which ye dispute. So if you take that passage seriously, the Quran has affirmed that Christianity is the truth.
I don't disagree. See, this is what I'm saying.
Right, now hold on one second. Christianity is the truth, and I have shown to you that Christianity is a better way to find virtue. As someone who takes Allah's command seriously, you should follow the course of the race that leads you to most virtue quickest.
Yeah.
And that means following your conscience.
Yeah.
That means leaving Islam and becoming a Christian, which is not rejecting Allah. It's being on the quicker path to virtue, because Allah said Christianity, Judaism and Islam are all true. Do you get the argument?
I do get the argument.
Yeah? Now that's using the passage you brought up.
Yeah. Well, like I'm saying, so for me, there's a, how do I put it, like an inner reality.
Go on. Yeah.
So the Sharia, that's the outer thing. It's a very Sufi idea, the outer and the inner, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I don't think we need to treat people of the book in the way we do. I don't think we need to be as harsh as we are. I think Muslims are a bit harsh, I will admit.
But their harshness is coming from Islamic Sharia law. Think about it. Instinctively, do you want to own a slave?
No.
Right. But Sharia law permits you to own a slave. Instinctively, do you want to...
So do one of the popes.
The thing is,
Papal bulls.
right, when you look at those papal bulls and compare them to the teachings of the New Testament, they don't correspond.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but Muhammad in the Quran permits slavery.
Yeah, but
Right.
that's in line with what he believes God is telling you. But you've got and I know he's not infallible, only when he's ex cathedra the Pope's infallible, but still you've got a Pope giving moral allowance to a form of slavery, which, as you admitted, is not in the Bible. So
Agreed.
You've got this great important leader, and he's saying, yeah, it's fine to, do this chattel.
Well, but
slavery.
all that shows is that there are good Christians and bad Christians.
Yeah, but it's a Pope.
Well, again, there are good Christians and bad Christians.
Yeah,
See,
but
the
it's,
Pope,
I'm not talking about general opinion, it's the Pope, though.
again, just there are good Christians and bad Christians. In this case, the bad Christian is a Pope. There's
Why
been
does that
loads
even-
of bad popes.
why does that
Have
happen?
you never learned about the bourgeois?
No, I'm familiar, but
Right.
I mean, I don't like to say the popes are some great evidence.
But my point is, like,
anything,
rather than I could point to bad imams,
Yeah.
right? But that doesn't invalidate Shiism.
I mean, it would be valid if there was a real critique of one of the 12 Imams.
Right, but my point to you is that, I mean, I've got moral critiques of Muhammad left, right and centre.
From our books or from their books?
Well, that's the point. I'm mainly from Sunni books, to be fair. Mainly from Sunni books.
Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi is spotless in our tradition.
Right, well, right. So, I mean, but the issue is, would you say it's more virtuous not to own a slave or than to own a slave?
Same as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi said, it's more virtuous to free them.
Right. So it's more virtuous not to own slaves, right?
Yeah,
right.
Which is what we said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Jesus own a slave?
No.
Did Muhammad?
Yes.
Who's the more virtuous?
Jesus.
Right. So who's the better moral teacher to follow?
I think they're both infallible, so...
Hold on. We've just agreed that to not own a slave is more virtuous than to own a slave.
Yeah.
That Jesus didn't own a slave, but Muhammad did. Therefore, Jesus is more virtuous. You've just got to be consistent to your logic.
But you have to be consistent
So
to what a slave
who is better to follow?
I still think Muhammad's better to follow.
You still think so?
Sallallahu alaihi wa alihi.
Right. Let's have another a crack at this. Is it better? I mean, for instance, in Sharia, in Shia position, did Muhammad marry Sophia?
Yeah.
And was that after the destruction of the Banu Quraysh?
Yes.
And was that after she had seen her father and her mother and her children, like her family destroyed?
She loved the Prophet, though.
Right. Do you know what hostage syndrome is?
Yeah, I know what Stockholm syndrome is, but
Stockholm, yeah.
I mean, claiming that is just I can see why one would make that claim, but it's one of those historical claims that can't be
But
verified.
think like a logic. Luke, you strike me as an intelligent, thinking human being, right? If your family has just been destroyed, just use yourself,
Yeah.
right? If your enemy has just destroyed your family and take you prisoner, are you gonna love them?
No.
Right. But let's say that you're their prisoner for 20 years. Do you think you might love them then?
Probably.
Right. So Sophia, and any account of her loving the Prophet, was immediately out of necessity because her life depended on it.
I think it's the other way around. I mean,
Or it was because she was a hostage for her entire life with no hope of escape.
well, no, we wouldn't say that, because the thing about Sophia is that she was married because she was vulnerable, not because she was like being forced to.
Well, I don't know what the Shia texts say, but according to the
we say that she wanted to marry the Prophet.
yeah. But the thing is, you've got to recognise, bro, that like people back in those days, women, particularly women, you see this in the Crusades,
Yeah.
right? When the caravan of the Crusaders looked like it was going to get overrun, the women were so terrified of just being destroyed,
Yeah.
murdered,
Yeah.
that they would beautify themselves in the hope that they could be taken as a slave, because their fear of death, right? Death is the fear of death is a powerful thing. It makes
agree.
people do crazy stuff,
I agree.
right? But those women weren't happy to be taken as slaves,
No,
but
I
their
agree.
choice was slavery or death.
Yeah.
Sophia's position was slavery, a sex slave to a nobody, or a sex slave to Muhammad the Prophet. Like, either way, she's going to be someone's sex slave.
I don't think she was a sex slave.
Her choice was sex slavery or marriage to the Prophet.
I think it's easy to paint things out in this regard. I don't know if it's all quite like that.
Okay, I don't know what the Shia sources say, but in the Sunni sources, it says that someone guarded the tent.
Yeah, I don't know any of that.
All right. But my point to you is, Luke, which I find that repugnant behaviour. Like, if someone did that to your mother, it should be condemned.
Yeah.
Right, yes, you said, yes.
I don't believe that's what's happening in that
But
scenario.
well, I mean, you're going to have to provide the evidence to say otherwise.
I mean, our reason is just going to be, once again, you're right in the fact that she had to get married. Women are viewed as contingent upon men, but I mean, that's the same for Christianity. No woman is complete and whole unless she
That's
is married.
actually not true in the Christian faith.
Well, Augustine says that women are not the image of God. We're only the image of God when married. That's on the Trinity.
Augustine believed, well, hold on
And
one second,
Aquinas-
let me correct you.
Go on.
Both Augustine and Aquinas believed in the idea of celibate females,
Yeah.
which means that from the Christian perspective, they are complete as women,
So why
independent
does
of men.
Augustine say that then?
Right, but the image of God question, he's sort of repeating after Paul.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
idea that man is the image of God and women is taken from the rib and the likeness of man.
Yeah.
Right? He's working within that, in that tautology. He's working within that paradigm.
Yeah.
But that isn't the same, because bearing in mind, in Genesis, it says that male and in the image of God he created them, male and female. Sorry, male and female he created them. In the image of God he created them. So the image of God is bore by both male and female.
That's opposite of what you just said, though.
No, Paul is not contradicting. He's not contradicting
Well, one
Genesis.
saying women are,
Yeah,
one saying women are
yeah.
not.
No, let me finish. If women are the image of men and men are the image of God, what is the image of women?
Well, they're only the image of God when under the
Do
head
the
of
logic.
household.
I can tell you can think logically.
Yeah,
If
I get
men
your
are the image of God
argument. No, I get your
and
argument.
women are the image of men, what is the image of woman?
Yeah, once again, I get your argument.
You're not answering the question.
I'm agreeing with your argument, but Augustine verbatim says they are not the image of God unless they are joined to a man, and with him as the head, only then.
Then Augustine is just wrong.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we're not tied to Augustine.
What about Aquinas that says women are misbegotten?
We're tied to the scriptures, and the scriptures teach that man and woman are made in the image of God, that man is made in the image of God, and that woman is made in the image of man. If man is made in the image of God and woman are made in the image of man, the image of woman is God.
Oh, then you're gonna have to.
Where is my look?
Why is one of the most important church fathers saying the opposite?
All church fathers get something wrong, bro. Everybody accepts that.
There's multiple. Tertullian thinks they're the reason.
Tertullian's not a church father. Try again.
He is basically.
No, he isn't.
I know you guys.
No, he isn't. No, he isn't.
He's a big
He is
writer.
not a church father. He's a church writer. He's not considered a church father.
Sure.
He's considered a heretic.
I know. I know that.
Right, so he's
was
not a church
Origen.
father.
So was Origen.
Exactly. So there you go.
It doesn't mean there's any.
Just because
missing the
someone was a
influence.
Christian thinker doesn't mean that they're a father of the church.
You think Origen and Tertullian had no influence?
Of course they had influence, but that doesn't make him a father of the church.
I'm not saying it does. I'm just
There we
saying,
go.
I'm just saying we can't dismiss them as unimportant.
I'm not dismissing. I love Origin. I've got his book, First
good.
Principle. I read it.
Yeah, great,
Like,
great.
I don't think he could be declared as a heretic, but I don't think he's a church father because he gets too many things wrong.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And that is the Christian position, bro.
then
When
how
I'm
do
in,
you-
my point is, if these are some of the reasons, honestly, Luke, if these are some of the reasons why you've rejected Christianity, then you have missed.
not why.
You've thought your way out of Christianity wrongly. So, what are your reasons?
Oh, well, for me, I just don't see through logical deduction the Trinity. I understand how Aquinas explains it, but all his arguments of God don't conclude in a three hypostasis with the essence.
Right. I just would present it to you as a brute fact.
No, I don't believe that.
Right. So I think that, well, firstly, I explain to me what is your objection. Let me tell you what my interpretation of the Trinity is, and then you respond
Do you
to it.
hold to the Thomism view?
Well, no, I'll just explain my
Go on,
position.
go on.
There's one essence.
Yeah.
There's three hypostases.
Yeah.
In the thing that they are, they're one.
Yeah.
In who they are three.
Yeah, I know the whole.
Right.
I know the whole.
So,
that is Aquinas.
well, no, I'm not agreeing to anything and everything that Aquinas says. I'm not putting myself in that box.
not everything,
So
but
respond to what I say and tell me why there's a problem there.
Oh no, I'm not saying there's a problem. Like I said, when we logically deduce God's
go on then.
existence, right?
Yeah.
Through the Diente, I'm sure you're familiar with the Diente. The Diente even itself doesn't conclude that there are three hypostases.
I'm not familiar with the Latin. I might be familiar with the concept, but what?
The Diente is the existence-essence distinction. So the formal cause, so the full cause is the formal cause. The
Right.
essence is sustained and gets its existence from outside itself.
Yeah.
Therefore, there is a per se series. Therefore, it rests on necessary existence, and the necessary existence is essence and existence are one and the same, and therefore divinely simple.
Right. So let me just deal with it in a different way. There is the essay, which is the Father, but the Father is always the Father.
Yeah.
If you're the Father, what is required?
Do you have a son?
There you go. So now we've established the Son, logically. If the Father has always existed, as the Father,
Let me ask you your paradigm, not my paradigm.
right? But there's a point. You're trying to say that the Trinity is not internally consistent.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't see how from rational argumentation we go from.
Well, deal with my
essence-
rational argument.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not signing up to Aquinas. Just deal with me.
No, I'm saying I know how the whole hypothesis.
Right, well, let's think it through
is
then.
of identity, is a predication.
Well, let's think it through
I know
then.
this.
Together, let's think it through then. Right? So if there is a singular essay, a soul essay, soul being,
Yep.
that is Father, what logically has to follow?
I mean, I don't have to believe he's a father.
No, I'm talking, you're saying that Christianity is not logically consistent. So we're just talking within Christian paradigm.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's a logical flaw. I'm saying that when we reason to God, we don't come to the conclusion of three hypostases. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's illogical. I understand how it works when we have a system for it.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these Muslims who says, oh, well, the Trinity is so illogical. How can you? I don't believe that. That's silly.
Fair enough. And I appreciate you willing to admit that. You're much closer to the truth then.
Yeah, three hypostases, one essence. The essence is God and identity.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's all fine. I'm
rationally consistent.
It's rationally consistent. I
Thank you very
come
much.
to that conclusion
Okay,
myself.
fine. So now let me count then.
Go ahead.
Your Quran claims to be from Allah. Your Quran claims to be free from errors, and your Quran gets Trinity wrong. Ergo, the Quran is not from Allah. You should reject Islam, and you need to pick up your Bible and start studying.
You're going to say it's because they say about Mary, but the thing about it
I didn't say that. You shouldn't assume.
Well, okay, my bad, go on.
All right, shall we go through the passage?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Surah 5, 73 says this.